Welcome back to Arkansas Bigfoot. Thought we'd take a little detour today, a little break from our normal activities and come down by the river. A little more peaceful and tranquil. Helps provide a little clarity and focus on a lot of things. Seems like it's just been a onslaught of negativity and misinformation on all levels of everything that we deal with on a daily basis, all of us. Sometimes it's like being here in this clear stream and having a truck with dirt back up and dump into it. The water becomes so cloudy and mudded that people either abandon the stream or they are groping and reaching around in the darkness and the depths of the bottom, feeling their way around the sharp, jagged rocks, trying to find a clear spot to get to. I'm talking about things that reach far beyond the scope of the Bigfoot community. This is on an everywhere level. We are all struggling with different things at different levels of it. But on a personal note, this entire weekend, my phone has been blowing up with notifications to go check out a certain story that was put online and what our opinion of it is and what we think about it. And I think the best thing right now is for me to read to you an answer that I gave to somebody else earlier today regarding that subject. And after the question of wanting us to watch the video, I said, well, when asking an opinion, the answer might not always be in line with what you want to hear. With that being said, people will continually choose to believe all kinds of things, regardless of it being factual or not. It's that whole free will thing. My advice, take a deep breath and quietly think about what is being said without any of the emotional drama that was portrayed during the telling. In your heart of hearts, does it really, really sound like the truth or add up in any way that makes sense to you? How does it make you feel? That's a choice you have to make for yourself. And I think that is exactly where we are going to leave any more comment or opinion about that matter. People are welcome to choose whatever they want to choose. That's part of our experience of being here.
It definitely gets into more than that scenario. I mean, anything and everything that's going on around us, we have to learn. I think it wasn't too long ago that Anku was encouraging everyone to become sovereign to their own feelings, to who they are, instead of looking externally for our answers. And this, for me, is a very good example of that. It isn't wrong to reach out and get ideas or opinions, but at the end of the day, we have to be accountable for how we feel. If something doesn't feel like the truth, it's probably not the truth. And that doesn't matter what it pertains to. I mean, we just happen to be on the platform of, researching Bigfoot. But there are so many things in this world that if we actually tune in to how we feel about it, our gut is not going to lie to us. Our heart is not going to lie to us. And it is a very individual choice. Free will is our greatest gift.
I think probably what I'd like to do today is kind of dig around in the basement, go down into the skunk works of everything, and look at some different questions that have been put out there and some of the methods and things that we've discovered along the way. And a lot of what Rachel was just saying makes better sense when you come to the realization that between her and I, we probably have over 70 years of combined experience with paranormal, supernatural, and all things related to those categories. And we've chased after ghosts and spooks and haints and haunts and daemons and demons and everything in between. We've worked with energetic healing for conditions that people have suffered with. We've worked with police departments and finding, remains that have eluded discovery. There are just so many things that we have touched on and worked with and looked at over the years that we're probably more comfortable swimming in that deeper water than most people are playing in the sprinkler end of the pool.
We're very we hesitate to ever discount anyone's experience until there's greater validation of it. A lot of people will come to me and say, you'll probably think I'm crazy, but no, I don't think you're crazy. I have danced on those waters in my own world, and there's a lot of things that will give us pause and make us wonder because they don't fit into the structure of what we're raised up in or taught about. And pretty soon you do have to become sovereign to yourself. You have to trust that connection to divinity. You have to trust the connection to yourself, and you have to understand there is always so much more than what our ears hear and what our eyes see. Those are the two greatest deceptors that we have, especially the visual, because we're so caught up in what things look like instead of how they feel.
And realistically, we're only living on a postage-sized stamp of an awareness in comparison to all of the facets of the universe around us. Unfortunately, people get so emotionally invested in thought patterns or beliefs that are given to them by somebody else's.
Or the he said, she said, they said, we said. It just goes on and on and on, and it gains momentum. And there's no resolution. It's like a competition that doesn't exist. To see who knows more, who thinks more. How can we get this one to feel this way, or that one to feel that way, or to say something? It's why?
And repetitively, it keeps going back to the same old tactics. Fear, anxiety, drama. That seems to generate the quickest human response. So that's the pattern they stick to.
And being human, we're not judging that because we've experienced so much of it. But this week especially, it feels like a calling to let go of the drama and to decide why does all of that identify us? Why do we allow it to identify us? What are we so afraid of losing that it's a difficult thing to release? And I think as a rule, in a lot of practice, we tend to do fairly well. But this last month particularly, there was a huge, massive amount of energy being placed. And this goes to other people that I know, other family members and so on, but there was just like the whole month was crazy. And most of them would call it weird because things were not fitting, things were not in place, and they knew it. I mean, from the most enlightened to the least enlightened, it was obvious that something was off in the construct of what we consider normal or reality, or our everyday world that we're used to seeing. I mean, it was just like little firecrackers going off everywhere to try to get people's attention.
And that's exactly what it is. These are road signs and warning signs. Slow down, curve up ahead, steep incline. And these are attention getters to tell you something is around the corner. There's a total shift of thought and feeling and
awareness. And a lot of people don't know what to do with that for themselves, and even for those of us that are more naturally inclined to ask different questions or follow different patterns, it still raises the bigger questions. And I don't know that for myself, I don't feel unsafe. I don't feel distrusting of any of the matters of spirit or any of the matters that I'm normally working with. Even Sasquatch, they've been probably more reliable than most of the external world that we've normally been a part of.
And I think
I like the consistency there.
And I think that's kind of the theme for talking today, is being like Bigfoot. It's might sound a little funny to your ears to hear that, but everything that we've ever approached, whether it was the supernatural aspects of things, the metaphysical aspects of things, exploring the whole cryptid area with these guys, we've looked at things anthropologically, we've looked at things historically, we've researched the spirituality behind it, we've looked at the folklore behind it, on and on the list goes on.
Yeah, we tend to want to dig to really find out what's going on.
Well, like I said, we have a lot of repetitive questions that keep circulating, and we thought we'd try to look at some of those today. And we were listening to a really interesting conversation last night about the Sasquatch, and a lot of the conversation was extremely in line with everything that we have discovered and shown and talked about. Three separate people talking, Rachel and I and this other person, different parts of the country, never have met, talked, interacted or otherwise, but yet we're still coming to the exact same realizations. But one of the questions that came up during that conversation is, why is it that Bigfoot interacts with some people but doesn't interact with others, and what could be taught to all of these other people in order for them to have that type of interaction? And theoretically, doing something like that is feasible or possible, but you have to ask a bigger question before that. And are you willing to put in the time and the effort and the focus that it takes to understand your own internal alchemy in order to transform your thoughts and perceptions into a frequency that is harmonically compatible with these creatures. Most people are going to say no because they probably didn't even understand half of what I just said.
Basically, it amounts to, are we willing to go through what we have to go through from an internal place? It's not external. Forget gifting, forget the woods, forget all of that for the minute. The process with these people is very internal. Their ability to feel your heart, to read your thoughts, to know your intention, not just for that moment, but as a human being. Who are you? What is your intention with the information that you could possibly acquire? A lot or a little, it doesn't matter. What are you going to do with it? And how is it going to benefit them? Why should they invest in you if you're not willing to invest in yourself? Thank you, Anku. Ooh.
You've got to think of this in a realistic application. What person knowingly in their right mind would hand a nuclear device to a 5-year-old and expect something not to blow up?
Yeah.
And it's the same way with interaction with these people, with the big guys of the woods. They are not going to show or offer or assist in anything that they are knowingly aware
is going to be used for destruction.
Is going to be used for destruction.
Whether that's to your neighbor or people you don't know or to yourself, it doesn't matter. It's all the same to them. It's the one mind, it's the one heart. And they will prevent anything that they see. I'm sorry, I've got Anku standing right over my shoulder at the moment. They will prevent anything that's foreseeably destructive. There's already been enough destruction. We have spent countless years, generations, eons destroying. Their question to us is, what would we do to rebuild? What would we do to build ourselves? What would we do to bring up the good that's there to be had, the nurturing that we're all capable of, the selflessness that we're all capable of. And he said also, as a tag along to the last thought he gave, this is not about being worthy, because at the end of the day, nobody, not them, not us, no one is worthy of any of it. When it comes to source, it's freely given to those that can receive it and handle it responsibly. So no one is more, this is my thought here, no one is more or less accredited, no one is more or less justified. But the difference lies with what's at the core of who we are.
What's your intentions behind it? Exploitation and destruction are the wrong answer.
Even just exploitation.
Is it to have a deeper one-on-one understanding? That's a good quest. Is it in order to learn more about your own self? To be more of yourself? Not in an egotistic way, but in a way that provides you your own inner peace and inner comfort.
And he's adding the interconnectedness. He said most everyone has a hole, a space within their being that they're trying to fill. And for some, they might do it by shopping, or, let's get this vehicle, or let's have this house, or whatever. But he's reminding me of an old teaching. If you were in the forest, just sitting on a stump, no mirrors, no people, no anything going on, and you're perfectly safe, but if you were sitting there, could you know without those things that you exist? These people do. These people have so much to teach us about that sense of being present, being aware. And he said it's there for everyone if they're in line with it. They aren't prejudiced, they aren't biased.
They aren't greedy, thinking that they are the only ones with any type of personal lock and key on any secrets.
And I heard Tom Cantrell last night say something that really resonated, and that's these people deserve respect, and they command, not demand, but command respect. And that's one of the biggest differences between them and human beings as we know ourselves. Human beings would try to demand it. They would try to stomp up and down and, shake their sticks or whatever they've got, run off at the mouth, and demand that people pay attention to them, demand that people
validate them.
Validate whatever thought, whatever thing it is that's going on. These people don't care. They don't need our validation. Trust me when I tell you, we have to show them that we desire from a whole place, from a pure place. We desire to know more. And the best way that I've seen them show me to approach that is with the curiosity in the mind of a child, with the passion that a child has for learning about everything. When we're kids and we're sitting in the grass and we're watching this bug, we want to know everything about that bug. We want to know where he lives. We want to see what he does. And we'll sit there, if we have to, as a child, for hours and observe. And they can do the same thing. They can sit for hours and strictly observe out of raw curiosity and the want to know. But there are very few things human beings approach without ulterior motive.
And ultimately destruct what they touch.
And the fastest results that we've gotten from these guys collectively is when we have had a natural born question. I wonder. I wonder what they do about this, or I wonder how they feel about that. Almost instantly. The next time we go to the woods, or the next time we have a conversation, that answer will be there. And they've even paid attention to the questions our viewers have naturally had.
When I say Bigfoot doesn't believe in you either, What have we truly accomplished in the name of humanity?
It's a good question.
Alright, so I'd like to share a story with you, and this pertains to how Bigfoot has the internal knowing and ability to select different people that they want to interact with. So in this story we have a banquet party with 40 people invited. And when they all arrive at the gathering, inside is a sculpture of this beautiful swan in ice. And everyone gathers around and looks at this sculpture. And 37 people all agree this is a beautiful, wonderful sculpture of this swan in ice. And over in the corner there are these three morons. And they're arguing back and forth. Well, it's a hippopotamus. No, it's a giraffe. Oh man, it's a kumquat stuck on a unicorn. Don't you know? Do you know the reason why they're doing that? It's because they're morons and they can't help it. No different than you can teach a rattlesnake not to bite or a leopard not to have spots. It's just the nature of being a moron. So we have to overlook those. They'll end up killing each other with those little plastic swords in the hors d'oeuvre tray anyhow, so don't worry about it. Well, let's get back to the other 37 people. Alright, so you're one of the 37. Nobody has ever met or known anybody. You're just mingling around, trying to get a feel for what's going on, and who is who and what is what. And the first 20 people that you run into are ambiguous. They're neither here nor there. Take them or leave them. Nothing outstanding, nothing horrible. They're just there. Then you run into another 7 or 8. And they're a little more interesting. They're kind of alright. You could be alright hanging out with them in a Starbucks or something. And you come on to these other two, and you've never met them and you don't know them and you just want to punch them in the face. They just bring up that raw internal, I'd just really like to smack you kind of feeling. And so you quickly dismiss yourself from that area and move on down. So what have we got, 7 people left? You being one of the 7?
I lost count. I was listening to the story. However many are left.
We have 7 people left, and you're one of them. So these last 6 people that you're interacting with, for whatever reason, internally you just feel like you've known them forever. It's just like you've met a long-lost friend. You're comfortable having a conversation and hanging out and talking about anything that pops up, and you're just as comfortable sitting quietly next to them without any kind of interaction, just sharing that same energetic space. Because you're on the same resonant harmonic frequency. It doesn't mean that the other 37 people in that group or 30 people in that group are, bad in their own regard. It just means that you specifically are in harmonic resonance with that small handful. And that's the same way that Bigfoot chooses to interact with the people that they do. Because at some level, there is a harmonic connection that they recognize and migrate toward. So theoretically, can we teach other people how to be on that same frequency? Yes, it's possible. But once again, are you really willing to put in the effort working on your own internal alchemy to bring yourself into that resonance? Without it, it's just happenstance sightings, a casual glimpse, but nothing that is really foundationally interacting.
Life-changing, yeah. And Anku is saying that he was giving me the term random acts of kindness. The harmony is in the vibration of the big love word. In, maybe it's a mom standing in line and she's $1 short on what she needs for her family. What's $1? And pull it out of your pocket and give it to her. I mean, it's just the harmonic vibration resides in the bigger aspect of love. Some people hear that word and they just immediately want to push back. But if you feel the word, love is about acceptance. It's not about agreeance. It's accepting that we can make a difference. It's accepting that we have a part in humanity. That it dominoes. And maybe we give her the $1 to complete her order, but maybe the next day she commits a random act of kindness, and so on and so forth. Maybe it's holding a door open for somebody. These aren't necessarily things that require money. This is about intention and energy and the place that we reside in. And whether we do it with a genuineness or we do it because there's something to gain out of it. And that's where most people have to really look at themselves. Thank you, Anku.
Random acts of kindness. You've heard this phrase before. It's not anything new, but it continually gets overlooked, and it raises your personal vibration, your personal energy. It's that whole karma thing. What you put out comes back to you tenfold.
Like I said, these are not things that... It could be a kind word. It could be complimenting someone that you find something that you can genuinely compliment someone on. You might not like the way their hair is, or but maybe you like the color of their shirt. If it's genuine and it makes their day and it makes them feel better, who are you hurting by? Man, that's a nice colored shirt. Little tiny things. Start changing that and it spreads.
Didn't cost you a dime and it made a world of difference for somebody at that moment. So when we started the whole adventure out in the woods, it was from our own genuine curiosity, the nature of a child of wanting to understand and explore. And we tried all kinds of things with the gifting and leaving, little toys and things like that. But it was never out of that trying to create a gotcha moment. It was a genuine curiosity to see what the interaction would be. And they could feel the difference and tell the difference. And so we've never been out to try to grandstand any of this. We've never been out trying to exploit them. And believe me when I say I would burn it down in a minute if I thought there was a threatening element that would do harm to the situation.
And that EVP, part of what came through was, remember your oath. They will hold you to your word. And we did give our word that we would do everything in our power to protect them, to keep them safe, at least, by any measure we could. And ironically, shortly after that, there was a lot of people reaching out, wanting to experience them to be in that space. So I was grateful for the reminder, and I don't think that we would have chosen that regardless. But they remember. They're like elephants. They remember everything, and they're going to hold you to it.
So let's talk about the mind speak ability, because so many people have this complete misconception of what it is, and it's been portrayed as this excruciatingly painful experience that knocks you to your knees, and it's just a horrible ordeal, and that is the farthest thing from the truth that there ever was.
Well, at least for us, it's been the opposite. It's been invigorating. It's hard for me to assess for everyone else. My experience, our experience, has not been negative. It's not been, it can be very matter of fact. They're persistent, and they don't change their minds. They're not going to play patty cake with you like that.
I think a lot of times what happens are the personal internal mirrors that get brought up.
Yeah. People
have to face their own inner demons, trying to sort through what's trying to come through, because that frequency just is like a vibrating mixer that shakes loose all of that deep embedded crud that you carry around. And so all of that bubbles to the surface first. And if you're carrying a lot of that fearful, angry, emotional baggage, that's what you're going to see at first, until it's filtered through.
And I put it in the mind of, back in the day, we used to make fishing sinkers and bullets and things like this, round balls for muzzle loaders. But if you take a pot of lead and you let it simmer, the crud that's in the lead, the impurities, will rise to the top. You have to scrape them off and let it simmer a while longer, and then sometimes there's more. Sometimes there's deeper impurities that were really embedded, but eventually they all rise to the top so they can be scraped off. But if you can't see them, you can't scrape them off. You can't find them in that liquid lead. You have to wait. You have to go through the process.
And that's the alchemy of lead. That's the trial by fire. That is the phoenix rising from the ashes and leaving all of the nasty debris behind.
And I've seen a lot of the process with these people being very much like that. Little by little, different things, weak points, and they're not weak points between us and them, they're weak points within ourselves. But they're fantastic at mirroring and helping to create mirrors to what's going on an internal level. Fortunately, knock on wood, our experience has been 95% plus positive, and so it makes my heart happy to know that maybe, we're almost there. I don't know how long that process takes. Do we? How would we ever know?
Well, once again, we've become so accustomed to swimming in that deep end that we are past a lot of that burn-off phase.
Some of those initial, yeah. But, I hold great gratitude, because in my opinion, yeah, we've invested a lot of time. We've walked a lot. wrangled some weather and some bugs and whatever, but in the grand scheme of it all, a minimal investment for the exchange. You know, when we think about what we've gained from these beautiful people, and we're not done yet. They just keep saying, you know, you're not there yet. And having your mirror standing face to face in front of you, you've got to really look at that and make sure that you can make the right decisions with it, to make sure that you can be responsible and hold that oath and all of the other things that go with it.
Okay, so here's a rabbit hole that we're going to chase down through the skunk works and come out the other end. And that's the topic of the veil. And the misuse and misconception. We've had intimate interaction with several things in that arena. We've been talking about the veil for months and months. And yes, there are things lurking around in the shadows and in the corners that would like nothing better to do than to drain you of your essence, I guess is the phrase I would prefer to use.
Most of what we've experienced has been what I consider benign. They'll be helpful given the right approach, or there again, it's an energy thing. Like attracts like, you know. But most of them are more curious than they are involved.
Now here's the thing a lot of people aren't aware of. Probably have never heard of it and will call me a liar for even saying it, but it's scientifically proven. It's already been shown, discussed about, and talked. And this is a built-in bulletproof vest, or a built-in armor, so to speak, deep down in the core of your own DNA. Down in the skunk works of your foundational structure in your DNA is the name of the property owner.
God.
The Creator's name is in your DNA.
Biological fact. Look it up if you don't believe us. You're marked.
The ability to walk where angels fear to tread.
And it's fascinating to think about these things. Even biblically, you know, it said that we were given dominion over these things. And what that ultimately means is you have control of your life. You're not subject to anything. Unless you choose to be, because that was the other gift we were given, was free will. And I think it's important for all of us, every day when we wake up, to say, what would you choose now? And bring that into a consciousness, bring that into a habit. What would you choose now? Because all of our choices are ultimately creating our results, cause and effect. And it's up to us to determine what ripples come out of the rock that we throw in the water.
You know, sometimes these things want to rear their head and haunt and taunt and pick and poke and prod, but ultimately, in that arena, there's no such thing as a victim. It's a willing participant.
For whatever reason, you're choosing it. And people are going to get mad at us, and we know this. We've already been told. We're going to make some people mad, and that's okay. Our job is not, we're going to be like Bigfoot. Our job is not to play patty cake with you. Our job is to tell you the truth. If we make you mad, we don't want to make you mad. But I'm not going to apologize for making you upset. Because it's a trigger, and there's a reason that it's a trigger.
Everybody has been tippy-toeing around for so long in this winter wonderland up over their ears in snowflakes, and it is ridiculous.
It's just time, the people keep emphasizing. They've been ramping it up because it's time. It's time for us to bear accountability. It's time for us to realize what the illusions are. This whole world is a holographic, for lack of a better word, projection of our thoughts, our feelings. You put those two things together, then they really have force. So we can't be upset with anyone at the end of the day if we aren't willing to be active in that, if we're not willing to be responsible for that. How are you going to be upset because this is going on over here when you haven't done anything to counterbalance it? You have that ability. If everyone would just be who they are, if everyone would just understand, and as the people say, you are seeds of a living God, they're saying you have to understand what that means. Inasmuch that God even imprinted His name on your DNA. Do you know how powerful that is? Power is something, though, that is meant to empower other people. It is not meant to be abused and misused and contorted. That's where we go wrong. That's where man has gone wrong. They took a really good idea once and totally misconstrued what it was for. It's okay. We're human. We're here to have, we're a bunch of spiritual beings here to have that human experience. But the beauty of the time that we're in is for us to merge those two things and say, you know what? It's great to be human, but what can I really do with what that means? For everybody, their own personal answer is going to be something different. And it may not come this very second. You might have to be a little bit patient. That's our other weakness. We're not patient. You have to learn to listen in the stillness. Turn the TV off. Get away from the road noise. Get away from the shopping malls. Get away from some of those things just for a little while. We're not talking about your entire life necessarily. But separate yourself from the things that keep you from your source. People want to know how to get there. I've had a certain number of people asking me, what do I have to do? Well, number one, you got to reach out. And there is a necessary step that they're reminding me of, the word atonement. Now, we've gotten our traditional versions of that, most of us growing up. But the beauty of the word atonement is when you break it up, it means at one ment. When we are willing to submit,
be at your moment. Quit worrying about things that happened 10 years ago or things that might happen 10 years from now. Human beings are the only ones that are distinctly guilty of this. In our mind, we can draw up an incident that happened 10 years ago so vividly and so real that it is just like it happened 2 minutes ago, and then turn around in our imagination and can imagine something so vivid and real that we can create it. And on one of Rachel's videos, we talked about the tulpa energies and how you create these things simply by focusing and focusing on them until they become a reality. Do you want boogeymen and nightmares under your bed, or do you want something a little more enlightened?
In the years of coming into where we are now, I don't know of anybody that doesn't have something where they said, well, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Well, maybe you would have made a different decision, but given the circumstances that you had at the time, did you make the best decision you could based on what you had to work with? Probably. If you were given that exact same circumstance, given those same conditions, would you probably make the same decision? Yeah. So why are you beating yourself up over it? Why live in that? Because you're your own ball and chain when you fall into such a heavy level of negative self-talk. Self-abuse is the worst abuse we can suffer. And forgiveness is not, sometimes it's just about letting go of it. If there's someone that you feel you committed an injustice to, you don't have to be in their physical space to ask their forgiveness. You can heal that by issuing it. Be bigger than you are. Be bigger than you think you are. But these are the demons in our closet. These are the things that we think we're being judged for, and really we're probably our own worst judge. But that at-one-ment, the atonement, is in that act of forgiveness, whether that's other people, forgiving yourself, asking Source to forgive you for being human. Not really necessary, considering He helped make you there, but whatever it is that brings you peace. Because that's the oneness, is in the peace.
I think we're going to wrap all of this up today. And for the three knuckleheads standing over in the corner, there's a box of those plastic swords by the hors d'oeuvre tray. Feel free to help yourself. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.